Hello families, welcome to Tales by Felix, where every story opens the door to a new world. Don't forget to subscribe, it would really mean the world to us. Now, let's begin. The wedding photos still hung proudly on the cream-colored walls of our modest home in Port Harcourt. Every time I walked past them, my heart fluttered, as though reliving the magic of that day. There was one particular photo, me in my ivory lace gown, veil sweeping behind me, while Chijioke held me like I was the most precious gem on earth. His smile was so wide, so genuine, it had convinced even my cautious aunties that this man truly loved me. And he did, or so I believed. Beside me in almost every shot was Amara. My best friend since childhood. With her bold laugh and magnetic presence, she had been more like a sister than anything else. She stood at my side as my maid of honor, her burnt orange gelly tied in a dramatic style that only she could pull off. Those two, the man I married and the friend who knew me better than anyone, were my anchors. Or at least, that's what I thought. The morning after one of our anniversaries, I sat at the dining table scrolling through the album again. The house was quiet. Chijioke had left early, claiming another urgent meeting at the oil company. My phone buzzed. A message from Amara. Amara, my darling, no. Hope you slept well. Just remembering that day you walked down the aisle glowing. Can you believe it's already 3 years? I smiled, typing back quickly. Ngozi, 3 years oh. I still feel like that shy bride. Chijioke has been good to me. God really blessed me. I meant it. At that moment, I meant every word. But as I set my phone down, my gaze fell on the framed photo again. The smile on my face in that picture looked the same as the one I wore now, hopeful, trusting. What I didn't know then was that my world had already started spinning, slowly unraveling toward betrayal. That evening, I sat in my classroom after the children had gone home. Bright hand-cut decorations filled the room, paper suns, smiling stick figures, and alphabets I'd painstakingly painted. Teaching had always been my dream, and my pupils adored me. When Chijioke walked in carrying a bouquet of roses, my heart melted. Baby, you should have told me you were coming, I said, jumping up to hug him. He pressed the flowers into my hands, smiling that perfect smile. I wanted to surprise my beautiful wife. How's my star teacher today? I giggled, burying my face in the petals. Exhausted. These children won't let me rest. Good thing you have me, he teased, kissing my forehead. It felt like perfection. Yet somewhere deep inside, a whisper stirred, fragile, almost inaudible. Something about the way he clutched his phone a little too tightly that night, or the way his eyes darted when it vibrated. But I silenced the thought. Love demanded trust, and I gave mine freely. I had no idea I was stepping into the beginning of my greatest heartbreak. Amara and I sat at a cozy cafe near GRA, sipping Zobo and laughing about old times. She wore her signature bold lipstick, the color of ripe hibiscus, and as always, she drew eyes wherever she went. Chijioke still spoils you, doesn't he? Amara asked, raising her brows mischievously. I blushed. Sometimes. He bought me this necklace last week. I fingered the delicate chain on my neck. Amara leaned in to admire it. Ngozi, you're glowing. I'm so happy for you. You know, I always prayed you'd find someone who cherished you. Her words warmed me. For years, Amara had defended me, supported me. When my father passed away, it was Amara who slept beside me, holding me as I cried. When I doubted myself, she was my cheerleader. I owe you, I said softly, for always being there. For standing with me on my wedding day. You and Chijioke are the two people I can trust with my life. Amara smiled, but it was quick, almost too quick, before she sipped her drink again. Later that evening, Chijioke came home carrying a small velvet box. What's this? I asked, unwrapping it like a child. Inside lay a gold bracelet, studded with tiny diamonds. My eyes widened. Chi, this must have cost you a fortune. He shrugged casually, but there was a flicker in his eyes. You deserve it, Ngozi. Nothing is too much for my wife. I threw my arms around him, overwhelmed. You always keep your promises, I whispered. And he did. Or so I believed. An unspoken promise bound us, that I was his only, and he was mine. That Amara was my sister in all but blood. I had no idea how fragile promises could be. At first, it seemed harmless. The oil sector was demanding, everyone knew that. Chijiok often came home late, his tie loosened, shoulders heavy. "Another late meeting?" I'd ask, heating up his dinner. "Yes, my love. This new contract, we're almost there. It just needs more hours." I believed him. Why wouldn't I? I'd rub his shoulders, serve him pepper soup, and listen as he spoke vaguely about upstream challenges and joint ventures. But then, little cracks formed. One Friday night, as he dressed hurriedly, I caught a glimpse of his phone lighting up. A message. The preview read, "Can't wait. Same place." I frowned. "Who's that?" He snatched the phone, sliding it into his pocket with a laugh. "Work, Ngozi. Always work." I wanted to believe him. I told myself I was imagining things. Still, when I lay awake that night, staring at the empty side of our bed, unease crept into my heart. At school, I buried my worry under the laughter of children. Yet every time I saw his face in my mind, that shadow of doubt returned. Then came the night he stumbled home past midnight. I hugged him, inhaling his cologne, but beneath it, there was something else. A faint, floral trace I couldn't quite place. I pressed my nose deeper, but he pulled away, muttering, "I'm exhausted." I lay awake long after he slept, staring at the ceiling, a question echoing silently. "Where have you been, Chijiok?" It started with surprise visits. One afternoon, as I arranged paints for my pupils, Amara appeared at the door with a wide smile. "No surprise. I thought I'd check on you." I laughed, hugging her. "This is rare. You're always so busy planning weddings and galas." She shrugged, settling into one of the tiny chairs. "Business can wait. You're more important." She began visiting often, sometimes with pastries, sometimes just to sit and chat. At first, I was grateful. With Chijiok gone so often, Amara's company was a comfort. But one day, as we laughed together, I noticed her glance at my phone on the desk. It was quick, almost unnoticeable, but her eyes lingered just long enough. I brushed it off. She was my best friend. Why would she care about my phone? Another evening, she invited herself over when Chijiok wasn't home. "You shouldn't be alone so much, Ngozi," she said, stroking my hair. "You need people who care about you." I smiled faintly. "I have you. I have Chi." Her eyes flickered, just for a second. Something unreadable passed over her face. Looking back, I realized those visits weren't about me. They were reconnaissance, subtle, deliberate. But at that time, I only saw the friend who had always stood beside me. The moment it happened is burned into my memory. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I had just gathered Chijiok's laundry. I sat humming softly, folding shirts, when my fingers brushed against something odd. I pulled it free. A single, long, shiny hair. Golden brown, nothing like my dark curls. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. The hair shimmered in the sunlight, mocking me. My first instinct was denial. Maybe it clung from a colleague's hug. Maybe it was from a hotel chair. But deep inside I knew. It wasn't mine. Hands trembling, I placed it on the table, staring at it as if it would explain itself. My chest tightened, my heart pounding with betrayal I couldn't yet name. When Chijiok returned, I forced a smile, hiding the evidence. He chatted as if nothing was amiss, unaware that my world had tilted. That night, as he kissed me goodnight, I lay rigid in his arms. The hair still haunted me. It was proof too specific to ignore. For the first time since we wed, I wondered if my love, my trust, was being played for a fool. The night he came home with that scent, I knew. Chijiok walked in later than usual, his shirt slightly unbuttoned, his steps uneven like someone who had rushed to compose himself. I wrapped my arms around him, relief flooding through me, until it hit me. A faint, luxurious perfume, clinging to his shirt. Not the earthy cologne he always wore. Not anything I owned. This one was floral, bold, lingering like an uninvited guest. I pulled back slightly, my smile faltering. "Chi, what's that smell?" He chuckled, leaning in to kiss me. "Which one?" Probably from the office. You know how these women wear strong perfumes. I forced a laugh, but inside, my chest tightened. I had smelled that fragrance before. Amara. She always bragged about importing her perfumes from Dubai. That night, as Chijioke snored beside me, I lay wide awake. My mind played cruel tricks, layering the memory of Amara's perfume over the embrace of my husband. The whispers in my heart grew louder. No, it can't be her. Not Amara. But the thought refused to die. A week later, the truth nearly slipped into my hands. Chijioke had left his phone on the couch while he went to shower. The buzzing startled me. I picked it up absent-mindedly and froze. The name flashing across the screen burned into my eyes. Amara. My heart stopped. For a moment, I stared at it, my mind spinning. Why would Amara call him at this hour? And why directly, not through me? The phone buzzed again, insistent. I almost answered. My thumb hovered over the green button. But fear paralyzed me. If I answered, what would I hear? If I didn't, what did it mean? At the last second, I pressed decline and dropped the phone like it was fire. By the time Chijioke returned, wrapped in his towel, I was calmly scrolling through my own. He picked it up, glanced at the screen, and slipped it into his pocket without a word. Who was that? I asked casually, keeping my tone light. He smirked, drying his hair. Work matter. I smiled, nodding, but inside my stomach churned. Work matter. Amara was not his work. She was mine. That night, I texted Amara. Ngozi, hey sis, missed you today. When next are we hanging out? Her reply came minutes later. Amara, busy, darling. We'll let you know soon. I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. Busy. But not too busy to call my husband. I decided to test her. Amara, I said one afternoon on the phone, let's have a girls' night. Just you and me, old times. She laughed brightly. Of course. This Friday, right? I'll bring wine. Relief washed through me. Maybe I had been wrong all along. Maybe I was imagining things. But Friday came, and with it, her message. No, I'm so sorry. Emergency client call. Can we reschedule? I frowned, staring at the text. Something about it felt flimsy. That evening, restless, I decided to take a walk. The night air was humid, buzzing with the sound of generators. As I strolled near her street, something caught my eye. Her car. Parked far from her apartment. Why? I stood frozen, heart pounding. My mind raced with possibilities I didn't want to admit. Was she hiding something? Or worse, hiding someone? I turned back quickly, afraid to see more than I was ready for. But the image of her car, parked where it shouldn't be, haunted me. By the next week, I could no longer bear the weight of my suspicions. My mind replayed every smile, every perfume trace, every intercepted call. I needed proof. So, with trembling hands, I contacted a private investigator. A man named Uche, recommended quietly by a parent at my school. We met at a small buka, away from familiar eyes. He was middle-aged, sharp-eyed, his voice low. Madam Ngozi, he said after listening patiently. You want truth. Truth is never cheap, but it always comes. I swallowed hard. Just find out if my husband is, if he's being unfaithful. He nodded once. Consider it done. The first few days yielded nothing. Uche's updates were frustratingly plain. He went to work. He came home. Nothing unusual. I began to question myself. Was I paranoid? Had grief twisted my mind? But then, on the fourth day, Uche texted, evidence coming. I nearly dropped my phone. My heart hammered as if it knew what was coming. That evening, Uche slid an envelope across the table. Inside were photos. Chijioke and Amara. Sitting too close in a car. Whispering. His hand brushing hers. I felt my soul leave my body. Still, I told myself it could be innocent. Friends. Business. Coincidence. Anything but what it looked like. But Uche's words echoed in my ears. Truth always comes. The day the video arrived, my life shattered. It came in a plain brown envelope, slipped under my door while I was at work. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a USB drive. I plugged it into my laptop, heart racing. The screen flickered. And then, there they were. Chijioke, Amara, together. Their faces clear, their bodies entwined, caught in an embrace that no camera angle could misinterpret. My breath caught. I covered my mouth, choking back a scream. Tears blurred my vision, hot and unrelenting. My husband. My best friend. The two people I trusted most. I slammed the laptop shut, but the images burned into my mind. I staggered to the bathroom, clutching the sink, staring at my reflection. Why? I whispered, my voice breaking. Why would you do this to me? My chest ached, my knees buckled, and I sank to the floor, sobbing until no tears remained. That night, as Chijioke slipped into bed beside me, wrapping his arm around me, I lay stiff as stone. He whispered, "Good night, my love." And I whispered back, but only in my heart, "You've killed something inside me tonight." The morning after I watched the video, I expected to wake up screaming, clawing at the sheets, begging God to erase what I had seen. But I didn't. Instead, I woke in silence. A silence so heavy it almost frightened me. Chijioke was already dressed for work, adjusting his tie in the mirror. "Baby, I'll be late tonight," he said casually. I nodded, sipping tea as if he hadn't just destroyed my soul. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't falter. "All right. Be safe." He kissed my forehead and left. The moment the door clicked shut, I exhaled, long and steady. My tears had dried, my heart had hardened. Grief had given way to clarity. If I confronted them now, they'd deny it. They'd twist it, gaslight me, make me feel insane. No, I wouldn't waste my pain on an argument. I would weaponize it. I whispered to myself, "Ngozi, you will not break. You will build." The storm was coming, but I would be the one to unleash it. QWERTY I remembered every careless brag Chijioke had made at dinner parties. The company depends on me. I know how to bend the rules. Compliance. They wouldn't dare check my accounts. Back then, I laughed, proud of my husband's ambition. Now, I heard arrogance. Weakness. That night, I crept into his study. His files were neatly stacked, his laptop password the same lazy code he always used, his birthday. I clicked through folders. Spreadsheets. Transaction logs. Invoices. At first, it was overwhelming. Numbers dancing on the screen, taunting me. But I was a teacher. Patience was my gift. Slowly, patterns emerged. Payments marked as consultancy fees. Transfers to unknown accounts. Inflated project budgets. I printed what I could, carefully returning things to place. My pulse raced, but a thrill coursed through me. This was bigger than cheating. This was corruption. The man who had betrayed me wasn't just unfaithful, he was reckless, greedy. And I could use that. The next day, at school, one of my colleagues noticed the shadows under my eyes. "Ngozi, are you all right?" she asked gently. I smiled, forcing warmth into my voice. "I'm fine. Just working on a project." If only she knew. If Chijioke's weakness was pride, Amara's was vanity. Her Instagram page glittered with designer gowns, luxury destinations, flawless event setups. Thousands of followers worshipped her perfect life. But perfection is fragile. I began watching closely, zooming into photos. A flower arrangement with wilting roses. A backdrop slightly tilted. Clients tagged her but left lukewarm comments. One evening, I called her, masking my voice in casual affection. "Amara, darling, how's business?" She sighed dramatically. "No, it's stressful. Clients want champagne dreams on palm wine budgets. But you know me, I always deliver." I smiled tightly. "Of course. You always do." But my mind whispered, "Not always." Behind her glittering posts, I saw cracks. Over-budget weddings. Missed deadlines. Furious clients who hadn't yet gone public. I started documenting, screenshotting, compiling. The betrayal had blinded me before. Now, my eyes were sharper than hers would ever suspect. Weeks of silent gathering turned into action. Late at night, I sat at my laptop, the blue glow illuminating my face. My fingers typed steadily, each word a dagger. To the Ethics and Compliance Department. Please find attached documents detailing financial irregularities linked to Mr. Chijioke. I attached the evidence. Every spreadsheet, every suspicious transaction. Another email followed, this time to a respected journalist I'd once met at a school fundraiser. Consider this story. It concerns corruption in the oil sector. I created a new anonymous account, hit send, and sat back. My heart pounded, but my face was calm. The first stone had been thrown. A week later, whispers began. Chijioke came home restless, snapping at small things. There's an audit coming. Waste of time. Some idiot reported nonsense. I stirred my soup slowly, hiding my smile. Oh, that sounds serious. He grunted. They'll find nothing. Don't worry. But his eyes betrayed him. For once, he was the one losing sleep. If Chijioke's battlefield was corporate, Amara's was social. And I was ready. Through anonymous messages, I leaked screenshots to a local gossip blog. Photos of half-finished event setups. Anonymous testimonies from angry clients I had quietly contacted. It began with a single post. Is Port Harcourt's event queen losing her touch? Within hours, comments flooded. Former clients chimed in, emboldened by the exposure. She ruined my wedding decor. She overcharged us and disappeared for days. The dominoes fell quickly. Other blogs picked it up. Hashtags started trending. At school, during lunch, one of my colleagues showed me her phone. Ngozi, have you seen this gist? That famous planner, Amara, is in hot water. I feigned surprise, sipping my water. Really? That's shocking. But inside, my heart hummed with quiet satisfaction. That evening, I checked Amara's page. Her comments were flooded with insults, accusations, demands for refunds. She had limited replies, but the damage was done. And then, one of her sponsors dropped her, publicly announcing they no longer aligned with her brand. I pictured her in her lavish apartment, scrolling frantically, her empire crumbling. The same way she had helped crumble my marriage. But unlike me, she had no plan for rebirth. The morning news hit like a thunderclap. I sat at my desk in the classroom, the children busy coloring, when my colleague Uju gasped beside me. Ngozi, look at this. She shoved her phone in my face. On the screen, a headline blazed. Executive suspended amidst allegations of fraud, oil giant under investigation. And there, in the attached photo, was Chijioke. My husband. Disheveled, head bowed, being escorted out of the company's Port Harcourt office by stern-faced security. My breath caught, but I forced calm. That's my husband, I whispered. Uju's hand flew to her mouth. Ngozi, I'm so sorry. But I wasn't sorry. Not even a little. That evening, he came home, his tie askew, sweat soaking his shirt. He threw his briefcase onto the floor. Those bastards, he roared. Accusing me of fraud. They suspended me like some criminal. I stirred the soup on the stove slowly, my face a mask of mild concern. But Chi, did you do it? He glared at me, eyes wild. What kind of question is that? I provided for you, for us. Everyone bends the rules. Everyone. His words hung heavy in the air. For the first time, he didn't bother to deny. I nodded calmly. I see. He looked at me, expecting outrage, comfort, tears. Instead, he saw something he couldn't name, a coldness, a distance that unsettled him. For the first time in our marriage, he realized he no longer controlled me. The next week, I met him in the living room, dressed immaculately in a crisp white blouse and navy skirt. On the table lay a neat envelope. What's this? He asked, frowning. I slid it toward him. Divorce papers. His eyes widened. Ngozi, no. You can't be serious. Not after everything we've been through. Everything. My voice was steady, steel hidden beneath velvet. Do you mean the lies? The nights you disappeared? or the nights you spent with Amara instead of me?" He flinched, guilt flashing across his face. "Ngozi, please. I made mistakes. But I still love you." I cut him off. "You don't love me. You love yourself. You loved the thrill of betrayal. But you lost the one thing you could never afford to lose: me." He reached for my hand, but I pulled back. "Sign them, Chijioke. This marriage died the day you betrayed me." His lips trembled. "Ngozi, please." But I stood tall, unmoved. The teacher who once nurtured children now schooled her husband in consequence. When he finally slumped, defeated, I turned and walked away. The sound of my heels against the tiled floor echoed like victory drums. Freedom tasted like sunshine. I threw myself into my classroom, channeling every ounce of my energy into the children. Their laughter, their innocence, their boundless curiosity healed me more than any therapy could. With savings I had quietly built, I launched a new program, Ngozi's Creative Corner, an initiative blending art, storytelling, and play. On opening day, the classroom burst with colors. Parents clapped as their children sang songs we'd practiced. Reporters from a local paper came, curious about the innovative idea. "Mrs. Ngozi," one asked, "what inspired you to start this?" I smiled, tears glistening but unfallen. "Because every child deserves to believe in magic, even when life tries to steal it." The article went viral. Pictures of me surrounded by happy children trended across social media. Strangers called me the kindergarten queen. And in that moment, I realized Chijioke and Amara had tried to break me. Instead, they had fueled my rise. Q-Life moved forward. The scandals of Chijioke and Amara dominated gossip for weeks, then faded, replaced by the next trending story. But my name remained, not as a victim, but as a teacher transforming lives. One Friday evening, as I packed up my classroom, the school janitor walked in holding a single white rose. "Madam Ngozi," he said softly, "this was left for you at the gate." I frowned, taking the rose. Attached was a small card. "True strength is quiet." There was no signature. I stared at it, my heart twisting with curiosity. Was it a parent? A secret admirer? A quiet acknowledgement from someone who had watched my journey? I smiled faintly, tucking the rose into a vase. For once, I wasn't desperate for answers. Some mysteries, I realized, didn't need solving. They only needed savoring. One evening, I stood on the balcony of my small but peaceful apartment, watching the Port Harcourt sunset paint the sky in hues of gold and crimson. The city buzzed below, full of noise and life, but inside me, there was calm. I thought of the woman I had been, naive, trusting, blind to deceit. And I thought of the woman I had become, steady, unbreakable, reborn. Chijioke had lost his career, his reputation. Amara had lost her empire, her followers, her shine. But I had gained something priceless. Self-worth. Resilience. A future untethered from betrayal. I whispered into the evening air. They thought they broke me. They only made me stronger. Then I turned, picked up my bag, and walked out the door, not as a wife defined by betrayal, not as a friend wounded by disloyalty, but as Ngozi, survivor, thriver, and architect of her own destiny. The story wasn't over. It was just beginning. The end.